We are live.
Welcome. We are live talking about the Pachacuti nature mystic tradition of Peru, with today's topic being Pachacuti, which we'll get to in a second once we have people tune in a little bit.
Yeah. Doing
Ooh.
some notifications to people on the side.
Yeah. And if you're watching on a replay, which is probably the only people hearing this part, is take a moment to share the video, please, and do your part to spread the contagion of consciousness.
I don't know if we should call it a contagion.
I don't know.
It did sound bad.
I always liked how that sounded. But I was going to my Facebook, and 11 years ago, my Facebook memory is the expo. I have a little picture of I think it was our first year, 11 years ago, doing that fun thing.
Yeah. Nice? I've been getting little reminders about the expo the last week and a half, 2 weeks, because I think in the very beginning we weren't always the third weekend. There was once or twice in the beginning that we did a second weekend.
No, the second year there was a dog show or something, or I forget. But 1 year we had to do the second weekend, and it foobarred everybody.
Yeah.
yeah.
So been getting reminders, memories of either what I was posting, we were posting, or other vendors and friends who came that were tagging me in it to be like, I'm going to be here this weekend, or, So, yeah. And I still get people coming up and asking if we're ever going to do it again. And I'm like, no.
But for everybody who doesn't know what we're talking about, here is the picture of our very first little expo that we had a memory of. So there you go. You can see it firsthand.
Yeah.
Very cool.
It was a labor of love. A lot of labor.
A lot of labor.
A year of labor. Well, we can get started. I guess we got some friends joining in. Today we're talking about Pachacutis. And Noah Springs is not going to keep it away.
Yeah, and though the topic of today isn't the actual person Pachacuti, I think it's interesting that the word Pachacuti, that was for Pachacuti Inka, which is the fifth Inka. And I think he was credited for extending the golden age of the Inca Empire by several hundred years or something like that. So it is actually a person also.
Yeah, though what I remember is the event.
The event.
Which kind of harkens back, hey Sylvie, to a part of our discussion last week about the whole shooting star, Zane and I, and he had set his mesa up slightly off of what it should have been, and then he's like, who feels things are just going wrong? And half the group went. So we figured we would expand on that story to kind of explain the little references we kept bringing up. I don't know. Hey, you want to get started? And I was going to say, Zane, if you're already logged in and watching and listening, let us know. Say hi, like you do sometimes when you're just Facebook user.
Well, I think where to start? Well, just for clarity, the story last week with what we were talking about, that was a lot of people who felt that they were affected by a curse. And a curse and a Pachacuti, two slightly different things. A Pachacuti literally means world turned upside down. And it is an event in your life that it everything just gets kablooied. I think it was a year ago, I used to say that my life got turned upside down, shredded, blew up in a cannon, then is now landing in the most nice positions possible. But it's not fun when you're in it. But the after effect, it's sometimes you require this massive shakeup to let go, truly let go of the things that were working for you but aren't really serving your soul. And I think that's what the energetic qualities of a Pachacuti are really good for, to shake out everything that really isn't being of service to who you are.
It's kind of like when you say working for you but not serving, it's those automatic things that you're doing that on the up close view, it looks like, oh yeah, it's doing what I need to do. But if you were to expand out, you're like, it's doing nothing. It's just spinning in this little spot. Mm-hmm. And it's painful, right? Because if you consider each one of those little things like a little Band-Aid for something going on, having a Pachacuti happen, it rips every single Band-Aid off at once. And all of those little fragile pieces that were kind of band-aided together, but not necessarily in the correct space. You know, a square was being shoved in that round hole, but then taped there with that band-aid, you know, like that all literally just kind of collapses down. So not into tarot, but if you are, like, that would be your tower card,
Yeah.
bringing everything down on you. So it's very dramatic. It's very like, oh shit, as it's happening. And at least for me at that time, it was not spread out over a course of time. Like everything came like
Boom.
crashing down in like a matter of like maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks if we're lucky. So yeah, it was. And then there were still kind of like reverberations that kept going a little longer. It was like, since we cleared all this up, that thing over there, yeah, we're going to go ahead and like take care of that. So for a little while, it was like, okay, we're done. We can, oh, this too? Really? Damn it. So was it the third year that Zane was talking about this? And there was like one student who kept going, I want one. I want. And I'm like, no, you don't.
Yeah, no, it was definitely third year because second year is when you had yours. I do believe.
Yeah.
It was second year because we had to change everything how we were doing the program because it interrupted the entire program too. And and the third year is like, I want one. And you're like, really? Do you know what you're asking?
Talk to me. Come here. You're gonna shut your face. You don't know what you're asking for, young man. And you really, and I think like Zane has mentioned before, like you have to feel like your world is just kind of like stagnant, right? And and this is where I was kind of thrown off by it because it was like you're stagnant, you're frustrated, you're this, you're that, and it seemed like it had to feel worse than what it was. Because if you would have asked me like, do you think you need, and I'm like, no, I'm good. Nah.
Well, you can ask for one and not realize what you're asking for, though. Like for mine, I remember there was a certain event that I was a witness to without going into details, and I saw this event and I saw myself like what I was witnessing like 30 years down the line. And I told the universe, I'm like, no, that's not me. I demand something different. And then my whole world got blown up. But mine was not like yours, where it was like one big thing. It was like it was a kind of a trickle effect that it's unfolding. And I think I'm on the tail end of it still. But it can be all at once. It can be a kind of a trickle effect, like one event that starts a process of unearthing and then regerminating and unfolding and all this stuff. But it's like, I think the key part is it wakes you up to continue the process. It's not like you have a Pachacuti and then you're going to go back and just find a new well-trodden waggle rut to like set in and like just like go on autopilot again. You're starting to consciously show up for your life more and more and more, and continually heaving boulders as you find them, and really just saying yes to your life and to what your soul is driving you to be, and not just the ego.
Well, and it's it really does make it impossible to go back to the way you were doing things. I mean, it obliterates all of that. So, you know, the biggest thing that happened during mine was literally my store burned down. Literally. So, there was no going back the next day to the old same grind. It was literally standing in the parking lot, watching the firemen like bust in the door. And I'm standing there going, I have a key. You don't have to do that. And they're like, get back. And I'm like, I have a key. You know, and just watching them go in there. And if it wasn't already damaged or broken from the fire, and that is hilarious. And maybe at some point we'll ever show video, because like half of the store was just obliterated, the other half like untouched.
And the half that was obliterated is I had a aromatherapy display. The fire burned up to the display, but my display was unscathed. I still couldn't use anything on it because of the smoke damage, but I thought it was like Spirit was like, I'm trying to protect your stuff, Hank. But, this isn't your Pachacuti.
And it stopped like right near the incense display, full of Florida water, full of all sorts of flammable things. It like stopped right there. So it was just weird. And the firemen, I remember going, what? You know, and certain statues of like guardians for the store, like untouched, a little smoke, you know, debris, but fine other than that. But, literally standing in the parking lot, because I got there maybe 30 seconds before they did, because somebody else in the building had smelled the smoke that was like up in the ventilation system and looked at our store, and they could not see through the windows. So they called the fire department, and I pulled in around back. And as I'm opening the back door and the smoke's coming out, I'm like, oh shit. And I go around the front because now I can hear the trucks. And that's where I'm like, I've got the key. And they're like, get back. And I'm like, well, I've already opened the back door. So standing there watching that. And then for like month and a half while the investigation was going on, like having to go in there and stand in that destruction and try to pull out anything that could be saved or that could, what they might be asking for. And the insurance people are like, do you have a dollar valuation? I'm like, sure did. And like, can you pull it down? I'm like, cannot. This melted pile right here used to be the computer. Sure can't. So having to go through all of that and, just kind of standing in there, and I'm like, well, what are you going to do now? Can't do what you did 2 days ago. You can't do what you did a week ago. What are you going to do now? And that kind of forced me to decide, am I going to reopen? Am I not? If I do, how am I going to set the boundaries and change? Because leading up into that, I felt like I was trapped in that store. I could never leave. Ever, ever, ever. So, and I'm like, how do I get away? Well, the universe is like this. We just take it away from you.
See, that's why, depending what you ask to the universe.
What store? Go do what you want. Why are
you teetered for a long time. Well, it seemed like a long time. It was not a clear choice for you.
No. And it was a lot of, like even in talking with, and then there were like other things in life going on, like not even just the store, like at the house with my son and his mental health and all this other stuff. And like, it just kept coming. And I remember at one point I had gotten in my car and went to turn it on, and the check engine light came on. And I'm like, you don't get my car too, like back off. And it was simply because I had put gas in my car at a BP, and BP gas does not work well in Dodge engines because it will make the check engine light because of the additives they put in. So thankfully, because I'm like, well, it's driving fine. It's active. Okay. Why is this light on? Mm-hmm. But like, it was to the point where like even the check engine light on the car, and I'm like, I'm sick of this. I'm done. Off. Like, we are not going to keep doing this. But talking with Zane, and I'm like, I feel like I'm just standing on the most ginormous dry erase board ever. Because he's like, start writing out your life. What do you want? Start. And I'm like, I don't even have a black dry erase marker on this board to even start. I've got nothing. I'm standing on the board. I have nothing. And that was so frustrating at that time that, I felt like I couldn't even start doodling out in black, let alone colors, to get like organized or draw pictures around it. Like not even a black marker to get started. So, and I joked, I'm like, am I supposed to prick my finger and like do it in blood? Like, what the hell? Like, this is annoying. And this needs to start getting a little easier here. Cause this is like epic level video game. Melissa must die here. Cause there's no way to get around this. And that's what it felt like. Like, it is a severe event in life. At least the way I went through it. So when that young man a year later is like, I want one. I'm like, no. Come here, sit down. Let's have story time, shall we? And I mean, it took that fire happened, solar eclipse in August, like that overnight.
It was a day after. Yeah.
It was that night.
The night
of the 21st into the 20th. I will always remember it because of this. And my store did not reopen in its place until February the next year. We opened up little bitty spot next door in what would be, I think it's the Health Marketplace right now, like right next to us.
It was like a fraction of the size of the main store.
This big. It was like 800 square feet. So to go from almost 5,000 square feet to 800 square feet, like tiny. But the landlords at the time, wonderful people, beautiful people, they're like, we want you to stay. We want you to reopen. We love what you do here. You know, in the meantime, come here and start rebuilding. And I'm like,
Isn't it nice to feel wanted by your landlord?
yeah, besides the little troll guy I have now, that guy, yeah, about him. But I was okay. Yeah, BP doesn't work in Chevy either. Good to know.
Yeah.
But it's a very traumatic experience. And at the end, like the store, business wise, has done better than it ever had. Like everything came out better later. You know, but in that moment, it did not feel like it. And, you know, I remember standing in the parking lot and the gentleman who had called the fire department, because he was the little like cafe guy. And he saw me standing there just like mouth open and just like, and he's like, it'll be okay. He's like, you're going to get an upgrade. I'm like, this was the upgrade. I moved down the road from 1,200 square feet to 5,000 square feet. Like, this was the upgrade. He was right. He didn't know it, but he was right.
Yeah.
But it's a big thing, and it's a conscious decision, I would say. Like, really think about this. When if you feel like you're stuck and you need a big thing to help you move forward because you are unable to force yourself to start making those little changes, do you really want to go through every single little Band-Aid and duct tape piece being ripped off at once? I'm stubborn. That's what it took. Now, Hank, you got to do it the more, I don't want to say easy way, but.
Well, there's nothing easy about it. I think there's, yeah, that's not easy.
No.
Sorry,
you just didn't have everything all at once. It was just finish one thing, here's your next. Finish one thing, here's your next.
It started as just like a moment of clarity that I wanted my life to look different, and then how that unfolded was unexpected. I put, you know, it reminded me when I got sober, honestly. Like in March of 2008 was when I said a prayer, just God help me. Like I knew I felt that I was on the course towards death. I needed to go pick up Anya in like a month from Germany because she was about to move here. And here I am drinking like 3 liters of whiskey a week plus other stuff. I was drinking a ton. And that next morning I had a complete emotional breakdown at work during a team meeting and ended up in rehab. So that's like, I just had that declaration, God help me. And February 11th, 3 years ago, is when I told the universe, I demand something different, because I saw my trajectory in life and things just started happening. And now I'm just like catching up with it a little bit.
Yeah. I was looking, I'm like, do I have that video still?
Well, I made a little video once with the store damage, but I also found one picture if you want me to. Oh, you did say sure. Yeah, let me bring it up. And then there was one story about I was part of Melissa's Pachacuti, actually. Unfortunately, I'm sorry about that, because of my friend Squirrel. He came to help with some of the stuff. And I could tell that story in a second. I'm distracted now finding this picture that I just downloaded. Was this it? Safety.
Let me see. There's a video in here somewhere.
Like, I know I had done one video with you reopening, and I had showed the damage and then how you reopened. And if you look at the logo for Goddess Elite, if I take down this question banner real quick, where is this question banner from? I can't even find it. But you can see the logo for Goddess Elite is like a goddess coming up with phoenix wings. It's like she was rising from the ashes. And I've always loved the spin she took on the logo, like representative of how she came back from this event. But
I got some still pictures. I'm not finding the video, because I did do a video from the front door as you came in and showed just what was left. I wonder what happened.
I can share it this way. Okay. Let me present. Share screen. And I had more pictures. I don't know where all of them are, but
and that happened like right in the middle of one of our apprenticeship programs. So we had to move the apprenticeship.
All right. If you're sensitive, look away. Here is one picture from the store damage.
Oh, I found it. Okay.
You found the video?
Yeah, so I'll have to hold my camera up because I don't think how easy it's going to be.
If you could send it to me, I can bring it up.
Okay, I will Facebook Messenger you it. Too large to send in Facebook, so maybe not.
Okay, well, just show it on your phone. I'll bring just you up here so we can see it better.
So this was coming in through the front door. So if you are local, in familiar, light fixtures hanging. See how the incense display not touched?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Pieces of artwork not touched.
Seeing it like this, it's just amazing what you've done since you've reopened.
And it was worth noting, it took me a couple days to realize this. The half of the store that went up in flames was literally all of the older stuff from previous owners. So it was like cutting the ties off from them of what was expected of what Goddess Elite should be, should do, should act like, maybe. The rooms where old readers and facilitators, had used that were no longer associated with the store. So it was like all of that half just, went up. But
there's my aromatherapy display on the right.
Yeah, see how like it's just weird.
Yeah.
And it was pretty much like electrical and ceiling, even though they put it down like they weren't sure what happened. But I'm like, really, the ceiling burned out? And leading up to the fire, like there were problems with the HVAC system, and they had replaced one of the units, but the guys working on it were commenting about how the units and the wiring were so old. It were the original ones from when this building was built, and nothing had been updated. And I even asked them, I'm like, do we need to address any wiring? Because to put a brand new big unit up there with old wiring, I'm like, is that going to be fine? And they're like, oh yeah, you're okay. Maybe obviously not. But that happened the night of that solar eclipse on the 21st into the 22nd. And that's the only reason why I will always remember that date. And there's times, it's been how many years now? Five, six, that like this year it didn't bother me at all, but there's been previous years where it's like this low grade, almost like like I am panicked all month. Like, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? Oh my God, what's going to happen? And just kind of like, oh, and learn very quickly through this event that like when something traumatic happens, when you have people for months down the road that keep, well, like, what happened? What happened? You're the one who had the fire. What happened? And I'm like, stop it. Stop associating me that way. Stop associating that event. Like, I'm trying to move on. And everybody wanted to keep talking about it and talking about it and talking about it. So I learned to put that boundary up. Like, we're good. Like, what happened? Oh, we're good. We're moving right on. We're not going to talk about this. It's done and over. We don't need to live there. So
it's a good message for everybody. Don't live in those traumatic experiences.
Yeah.
Move through it.
So now, like when certain people make jokes about like, oh, now I'm like, you shush your face. You shush your face. Because I'm like, I'm not going to reopen again. If something else, I'm done. Like, I will go flip burgers at McDonald's. I'm done. Like, we're not going to do this. But I mean, that's a big traumatic, and then dealing with the insurance and the investigations and everything else. And all of the rumors that come up, there were so many people who used to be, who I thought friends and supporters would, make comments about how and why that supposedly happened, and I'm like, well, you learn real quick who's really with you and who's not.
One thing noteworthy to mention, taking the apprenticeship doesn't mean you go through a Pachacuti.
No, this is not
I should mention that. It's not something that everybody, and a midlife crisis is not necessarily a Pachacuti. What the apprenticeship does do is give you a lot of tools to work more consciously, maybe to avoid a Pachacuti, that type of thing.
Yeah. Like Emily, one of my current employees, she's like, are you talking about the fire? Think about wildfires, burns everything down, but can actually make life. And it did. Like, the store came back better than ever after I made that decision to do it again.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I couldn't figure out what I wanted to be when I grew up again. And even my own son, who was still in high school at that time, and I'm like, maybe I should go work here. Maybe I should go work there. And I joked because he was in Taekwondo. We would get McDonald's before Taekwondo. And of course, now hiring sign. I'm like, maybe I should work here. He's like, I can't see you flipping burgers, mom. He's like, you're good at what you do. And I'm like, oh, sense out of the youngin'. So I'm like, okay, fine. Um, it was. But again, you're not obligated to have this type of thing happen during the apprenticeship. But don't ask for one lightly either. Needs to be a conscious, like you're ready to go through it, or maybe take it as a warning instead of always like, I'm fine, I don't have to do with this, I'll just keep going the norm. Sometimes the universe will force you into it if you are stagnant on yourself by a conscious decision because you feel uncomfortable and you'd rather not, so you're going to keep doing what you're currently doing. Sometimes it makes it happen for you.
Well, what I think happens there is somebody is asking for change of a symptom showing up in their life, but then they don't do their own work. I give the example of a rowboat. You ask for something, the universe starts rowing its half of the boat. If you don't row your half of the boat, you'll end up going in circles. But the universe is setting stuff out. So if you're looking for more money in your life, but you're not looking for a new job or to advance your career, to start a business or anything, the universe will eventually deliver a layoff event or something like that, and you will be forced to then do your part. So
Didn't
I
you
think a
have
lot.
something like that, Mister? I have my resume
I
and you
do.
took out a whole branch of Bank of America, sir.
Yeah, I did. The whole thing got closed down because of me. No, not really. But I knew I wanted to do this work full time. And I kept saying, I'm just going to wait until this moment. I'm going to wait till this works out. And it wasn't until I gave myself a deadline, December. No matter what is going on with the bank, I'm done. I'm out. I don't care if I'm doing this full time. I'm not going to do that because underwriting sucks. And loan processing. It was like one of the most stressful positions I've ever had. And a week after I made that choice, they announced that the whole site was closing, and I got a huge severance, and I could collect unemployment too. And the day that it happened, they announced it. I went back to my desk. I look at Facebook, and someone posted, "Hey, there's an office rent in Lakewood." And that's when I opened my office. It was like within a month of losing my position at the bank.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, Emily, I reference this. I'm like, if you're into tarot, this would be the card that represents that whole thing happening. All the little duct tape and band-aids get ripped off at once. Everything comes crumbling down. And you're right, Karen. Yeah, it says I'm stuck. Okay, we'll help you. It's your command. But again, for like the umpteenth time, you are not obligated to have to go through a Pachacuti to be in the apprenticeship.
in fact, most people didn't have one.
Yeah. And the others that kind of participated, so what did happen? Zane had set the Mesa up. I think it was only like one click off of how it should have been, right? It was facing one.
Something like that. It was like backwards. So it was like maybe 2 clicks off, if I remember right. And he even commented, once someone pointed it out, he remembered doing it and knew he was doing it wrong, but was compelled to do it anyway.
Yeah.
And then it all became clear when the person asked a question.
Yeah. And so that like drive home, I guess, like the aha. And it's funny because as he was driving back to go to his place, I was behind him on the highway and there was that shooting star. And I was like, hey, did you see that the next day? And he's like, no. He's like, I was too busy lost in thought, blah, blah, blah. And he was thinking about like, this is why this is set up wrong. And so those of us that were in the middle, so all of us who felt like, hey, things are just blah, not going right, what's going on. And I wasn't even thinking, store and being stuck there. There were other things I was focused on. Again, little up close in your face rather than big picture. So we were in the middle, and those who felt like they didn't need to have this happen, like helped literally shift the Mesa around us. And I think they walked it 2 or 3 times.
Yeah. Everybody picked up, like he had somebody hold incense. Everybody like was assigned a cloth that was helping. And they took the Mesa and they went in procession, like counterclockwise, I believe, around everybody standing in the middle and righted the Mesa. And the Mesa represents you. So they were righting the world around us. Essentially energetically. And then there's a type of Wada staff or mayoral staff that's used, and you do certain motions with it, and it's like simulating like the galaxies and how they have like the arms swinging and recapitulating reality around someone to help
Hmm.
writing things. Right, I use writing in air quotes here because I'm not talking about really right or wrong, but to put them so that there's a
Like the
smoothing
order.
out of the destiny of the soul. Because I really feel that all that comes back to the destiny of the soul, like blasted tower. And the old esoteric definition or interpretation is the will of the soul. And if you aren't following the will of the soul and you become dissonant, eventually the soul going to win. Because it's doing stuff that you're not aware of to get you back on track. And when that hits the fan, then all of a sudden that you have that tower effect blowing up or whatever, because the will of the soul's bursting forth so that you can get back and surf the
Mhm.
wave of creation to your destination.
And the going through the apprenticeship does help you become more self-aware, to be like, oh, I keep asking for this, but I'm not doing it. Why? Is it a fear? Is it lack of knowledge, or or the perception of lack of knowledge? So it helps you realize when you need to start making actions, so you don't have a Pachacuti happen that maybe you subconsciously kind of put into effect by constantly saying, I'm tired of this, I'm tired of this, I'm tired of this, while physically not changing any actions that keep you in what you're tired of. So that again, you're not required to have a huge tower moment to come through the apprenticeship. If anything, it helps you not
Well,
have to have one of those.
and here's the other thing: you can have a Pachacuti and not be in the program. That's just the word that we have in this tradition. But when people have these life events that are occurring that just rip them out, you have then tools to navigate that more
Yeah.
so than if you had nothing. And you could also just go into victim mode when that stuff happens and give up on life. And it's like,
Yeah.
you want you having tools is a better way to go, in my opinion. Whether
Yeah.
it's this tradition or something, give yourself tools so when life happens, you can navigate it with more ease and grace.
Mhm. Well, and I think, at least for some of us who are maybe a little bit on the analytical, like, you can enjoy and appreciate you woo woo. There we go. Not you. Words are hard. More coffee needed. Having that knowledge and to be able to be self-aware makes it easier to navigate that, because you're like, oh, I understand what's going on. Where some people can just follow the energy flow and they don't care. Um, Both are great. Some are in the middle, but I think the important part is knowing what's going and being able to do it, period, in whatever way that it comes to you that things need to change, and you're going to actively do it rather than make the universe be like, I said, do this. Fine, I'll do it for you. Um, so, yeah, the apprenticeship really helps understand what's going on. And it's perfectly okay if there's anybody watching, because I find myself doing this, where sometimes you step out of some of what you've learned and you forget, like, oh yeah, I could be clearing the heaviness, I could be doing that. But the minute that you remember and get back into it, like, you're still living in that moment, you're still doing the work you need to do. We're all human, we have moments of like, I don't want to do it. So
Yeah.
it's okay. Mary, she's like, I didn't go through it then, but I'm going through it now.
Oh boy. Congratulations.
Need a Pachacuti support group, I think.
Maybe that could be a thing. I know somebody that has some space. We could do that.
Sitting around with little cups of apple juice, like, so what happened to you? um, but yeah, feel free to ask questions, guys, while we talk about
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, this has been more of a storytelling today, but I'm really grateful to hear this from you. Like, I think we talked a little bit about this on that 12-hour stream we did a while back, but like just hearing the story of the fire again, and now that you're on the complete other side of that, is really inspiring.
Well, and as I was saying that, I'm like, I've caught myself feeling like I can't even take a day off, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah, don't say that too loud to the universe.
So now, whereas before, never would I have thought to shut the store down ever. But like, I am at the point now where I'm like, if I need time off and if I feel like for whatever reason I can't do that while it's open, then guess what? The store shuts down for a week. So I don't have to worry about it. I'm not going to get called. I'm not going to get, like, fine, we'll just shut it down. So whereas before, never would have done that. never, because the old big box training manager in me was like, you don't miss sales.
Right.
You don't do it. Now I'm like, meh, this life's short anyway. Who cares?
After the fire, you also started closing on Mondays too, and took a day off for yourself again.
I went, yeah.
Because Pat and Jim used to have Monday off, and then you took over. It was open 7 days a week, and then you went back to 6.
Yeah, well, we stay closed on Mondays, but then I got talked into like, oh, you should open Mondays, and I'm like, but, and I kind of knew what was going to happen, but I'm like, maybe not. Maybe this is just the fear, right? Like, let's try it, and then I'm like, oh my God, I can never get out of here. So when the reopen happened, I'm like, never ever in the history of ever will we be open on Mondays ever again. Never, ever, ever. And so I joke with people even at shows, and I'm handing them business cards. I'm like, oh, we would love to come in. I'm like, you can come any day but Monday. I am at home in my pajamas. You will not find anybody there. And they laugh and they're like, that's great. You know, so they empathize with, gee, everybody needs a day off, including business owners. And I will say, small business owners, we don't take enough time for ourselves anyway.
Yeah. Because even when you're not at the store, you're working like a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, my day off yesterday was nothing but work, and by the end of it, I remember I'm like, I'm tired of working. It's 10:30 at night. I'm tired of working. I'm gonna actually focus on the TV show that I kind of have been watching.
The teacher speaks. There's a comment from Zane.
Pachacuti are also used when everything is perfect in your life and you are enjoying yourself but have stopped growing. That type is a personal choice. Keep growing or you'll lose it. Haha. Right, yeah. And never sleeps. But yeah, it's, if you catch yourself falling back into that old behavior that was kind of coming before that, like, recognize it, change it. Don't have a Pachacuti looming over your head.
Maybe finding the balance of enjoying your life and having growth and change.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why the middle path is the path of the healer, you know, being able to be in the middle between the left and the right side. And you have a little bit of everything, right?
Right. Good reminder. Why am I being called out on my own damn life? But again, guys, you're not required to go through the apprenticeship. If anything, the apprenticeship's going to help you realize changes and growth that need to happen so you don't have to have one. Don't let the ego trick you that everything is perfect as it is, because it's not. And unless you guys had one in the last apprenticeship, I think that's the only one Don Zane has ever had to do, at least in our grouping, our working. I don't know if he's had to do it in other locations that he's taught, like in other states, but.
Yeah, I've not seen it personally other than that one time. And I think it was customized for us.
Yeah, we were the troublesome kids.
It was more of a kuti ceremony. Well, was it Pachacuti or just a kuti ceremony? I mean, there's maybe a little bit of both.
Mm-hmm. Zane, did you have to do this in other? Tell us. Yeah, I was like, did you have to do this in other groups? Are we the bad ones?
Well, and I don't know if were you watching the whole time? Do you know the story? We were talking about the time when you had all the students pick up parts of the mesa and write the mesa around the students that had things going on in their life. And yeah, which is like, I think the class before the fire.
Right before, yeah, because it was still on that side that was unfinished. And I remember thinking, like, while it was going on, like the energetic perception, like, I'm trying to even think of a good reference of like standing in the middle and having everything turn almost. Was it Harry Potter where they had the little turning ball that had the different sides moving around, but being in the middle of that and like just the whole, you know, concept of space time just completely moving around. It was Harry Potter. Thank you. But like having that spin around, like while standing still and just having all of that completely shift. And as it was over, and maybe just because I'm such a visual type of person, and when I think of things like movies that play, it was like even hearing like little click, click, clicks as it was like starting to end, of like as it was settling back down. It was like, yay, we're good. Woohoo, things are going to be great. And then fire.
Well, and Zane does remember it, but didn't catch my question. My question was that like I know that it was a kuti ceremony, like the send back, but with like I know it was kind of customized. I was wondering, what was it intentionally like a pachacuti also, or was it more just the reversal? And I guess I don't
Mhm.
remember. That's why I was asking. Definitely, like I really, it was one of the highlights of seeing Zane work like that when something, and this happened at the retreat too, where like a staff fell, and just from what it told him, he did this entire thing for the group. And just how, I mean, that's really, this tradition is doing, like learning, the protocols, or the things that, like riding a bike, you learn what you need to do to keep your balance and ride the bike, but eventually it becomes intuitive, and then you follow it from the heart, and you do what you need to do from the heart. It is both cool.
Now, Zane, have you ever had to do that in any of your other apprenticeship groups, outside of our area? Or are
You
we
want to know
the
how special we are?
how bad are we? The badass kids in the back here. It's like we are refusing to do the work until Zane's like, fine, here's your Pachacuti.
No, I guarantee he wasn't like fine. I saw him at one time. He like saw something, and he knew he needed to do something. He's like, oh, he's like, I don't want to do that. Like, but he did. He like did what he was supposed to be done, but he knew that it would be some work. So like it's with respect and reverence, and like I'm going to do the work, and knowing that it's going to be hard for everyone, including him.
Yeah, because of course he's also that teacher that we all come
Yeah.
running back to when the world's falling apart.
Well,
Like, oh, Zane.
and I think Zane does a lot of unseen things. Like he's supporting his students in the group in a lot of things. And when people are going through a lot of stuff, I believe it's on his radar. And I don't know this. I'm just like speaking
Mhm.
out the cuff. Zane can tell me if I'm right or wrong. But I think he's always like holding space, but not interference, but just holding space and doing what he can for everyone as things come up.
Pachacuti, there is no way to balance you. Just hang on for the ride. Yep. The things don't always get better, but they will change for sure. So, yeah,
Right.
you literally are, at least for me, was just trying to keep up with everything that was coming at me through all of that. So while kind of going through grief of like watching my whole store burn down and then going, now what am I going to do? And the grief of that. And then also realizing like I need to separate myself from the store. I am not the store. It is not me. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so going through all of that while handling phone calls from fire investigators, insurance people, the landlord, people in the
Your
beginning.
expo partner.
Yeah, and I'm just like, oh
Oh
my
yeah. That
God.
was the only year I did the map for the expo, and the last. Melissa reclaimed that job immediately because I it was not good. Not good.
There was almost a separate Pachacuti where Hank was no longer on this earth when he messed with my map. Um,
Yeah, you had bigger fish to fry than me though at that point.
yeah, never did it on that scale before. Okay, well, glad we gave you that experience, eh? Um,
Yeah.
hey, Firestone. Yeah. I actually need to duck out because I have another appointment that I have to Zoom for. But Hank, you guys keep having fun and doing your thing.
No.
Um, I'll see you guys
Well,
next week.
I'll probably pretty much wrap up. Unless Zane, are you at a computer? Can you hop on? I can send you a link. You want to say hi to everybody? Can do that. No, guys, but I will duck out too because I have to drive up to the store. I'm at my office, and I got to go be present for people. I will be at the store today till 6. If anybody wants to come in for readings, I have to leave early because my son has a music thing at the school, so I'm gonna get to go do that. I'll wait to see if Zane cannot. Bummer. That's all right. We are gonna get Zane on eventually, even if we can't do it at this time slot. We will have live streams where we'll get Zane on, and you get to see Zane in person or whatnot. But in summary, thank you all for watching. There is on Goddess Lead's website under events. If you go through till next April, there is a registration for next year's apprenticeship with about 4 different options for you to sign up if you wanted payment plans and things like that. So we're trying to make it very available. And if you feel really called to the tradition but need assistance, reach out to myself and or Melissa, and we can see what we might be able to do for you. Cool. But until next time, have a good one, everyone. Bye.